30 years of marriage taught me one thing about protecting my daughter. You can't protect her from everything. You just have to be ready when the thing you missed walks through the door wearing a tuxedo and a smile you almost trusted. My name is Matthew Hatch. I'm 57 years old, retired from 22 years running claims investigations for a regional insurance group out of Cincinnati, which means I spent 2 decades being professionally suspicious of people who looked perfectly innocent. You'd think that would have made me harder to fool. You'd think my daughter Natalie married Kyle Merritt on a Saturday in June 14th to be exact, at the Riverside Pavilion in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Cincinnati, Ohio. 200 guests, string quartet, open bar, the whole production. My wife Carol and I spent 14 months and $63,000 making that day happen. $63,000. I know the exact number because I approved every invoice personally, the way a man does when he's terrified of being surprised. The irony of that is going to sit with me for a while. Kyle is 34 years old. He runs a property management company called Merritt Group out of a rented office on Montgomery Road. Charming in the way that makes you feel chosen when he focuses on you, and slightly empty when he doesn't. He proposed to Natalie after 14 months of dating. She called me from the parking lot of the restaurant, crying the good kind of crying, and I sat in my truck in our driveway in Oakview and let myself feel genuinely happy for her for about 45 minutes before the investigator part of my brain started quietly clearing its throat. I didn't listen to it. That was mistake number 1. The wedding was beautiful. I'll give Kyle's people credit. His mother Beverly, his best man Doug, his college friends who flew in from wherever. They showed up and they behaved, and they said the right things. Beverly Merritt is the kind of woman who wears expensive clothes and speaks in a register that makes everything she says sound like a correction. She hugged Natalie at the reception with both arms and a smile that reached her eyes for approximately 1 second before it retreated back to wherever it lived. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's a different problem for a different day. The photographer was Danny Russo. We found him through a referral from my neighbor Phil and his wife Sandra, who'd used Danny for their oldest daughter's wedding 2 springs ago. Danny runs a one-man operation out of a converted garage studio in Blue Ash, about 15 minutes north of Hyde Park. He's 38. Quiet, the kind of guy who moves around a room like he's not there, which is exactly what you want from a wedding photographer. You want invisible, and you want good. Danny was both. We paid him $4,200 and he shot 9 hours and 1,400 frames. By all accounts, he was the easiest vendor we worked with, which is why, when he called my cell phone on a Tuesday evening, July 12th, 4 weeks after the wedding, I answered without a second thought. Mr. Hatch, his voice was off, not panicked, just careful, the way a person sounds when they've been sitting with something for a while and finally decided they had to say it. I need you to come to my studio, tonight if you can. Danny, everything okay? The photos are done. I've been editing since the week after the wedding and a pause. Long enough to notice. There's something you need to see. I don't want to say it on the phone. The investigator part of my brain stopped clearing its throat and sat up straight. Can you give me anything? Just come alone, and don't mention it to Natalie. She looked at my face and immediately put down her coffee cup. 29 years of marriage, she reads me the way other people read weather. What happened? Nothing yet. Probably nothing. Even as I said it, I knew it wasn't nothing. Danny Russo called. Wants me to come look at something. The wedding photos? I think so. She studied me for a second. You want me to come? He asked for just me. Carol nodded slowly. She's smart enough to know when to push and when to wait. Call me when you're leaving his studio. I drove the 15 minutes to Blue Ash with the radio off. I need to tell you something about my brain when it goes into investigation mode. It gets very quiet, not calm, quiet. The kind of quiet that is actually the sound of every instinct you have sharpening at once. Danny's studio light was on when I pulled up. He opened the door before I knocked, which told me he'd been watching for my headlights. His studio is one large room, editing desk on the left, print station on the right, a couch and a coffee table in the middle for client consultations. The walls have sample prints from past weddings, happy couples frozen in perfect moments. On the coffee table was a laptop, open. A photo filling the screen. Sit down, Mr. Hatch. Matthew, what have you got, Danny? He sat across from me. He didn't look at the screen. He looked at me the way a doctor looks at you right before news. I want to walk you through how I found this, because I need you to understand that I wasn't looking for anything. I was just editing. Okay, I was culling the reception shots, the candids, the crowd stuff, and I noticed a woman near the back of the room by the bar during the first hour of the reception. He turned the laptop toward me. There. The photo was a wide, candid shot. Maybe 60 guests visible, slightly blurred background, sharp foreground. He'd circled someone with a red editing mark, a woman mid-30s, dark hair standing near the far end of the bar. She wasn't looking at the couple. She wasn't looking at anything in particular. She was holding a glass of something and she was not right. Even at that distance, even in a crowd photo, something about her posture telegraphed wrong. Who is she? I asked. I didn't know at first. She wasn't on your guest list. I checked, because I keep a copy for captioning. So I figured she was a plus one who wasn't registered. Or maybe staff who wandered into frame. He paused, but her expression bothered me. So I did something I don't usually do. What? I ran her face through a reverse image search. The room was very quiet, and a second photo loaded. Different setting, an outdoor venue, warmer light, different flowers, same woman, standing at an altar. As a bride. Her name, Danny said carefully, is Pam Archer. That photo is from a wedding gallery posted publicly on a photographer's website. He scrolled again. Shot in Cincinnati, at the Devereaux Estate in Anderson Township. Another scroll. The wedding date in the file metadata is September 8th, 2021. My brain ran the math without being asked. Kyle and Natalie had gotten married June 14th, 2025. Who was the groom? I asked. My voice was level. 20 years of interviews. You learn to keep your voice level even when everything underneath it isn't. Danny didn't answer right away. He just scrolled one more time. The altar photo, wider now. The groom turning toward the camera, caught mid-laugh at something the officiant said. Kyle Merritt, younger, thinner, same smile. I looked at that photo for a long time. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The photo said everything. The other photographer's gallery is still live. Danny said quietly. I've got the link. I've got the metadata. And I pulled Anderson Township marriage records this afternoon through the public access portal. He slid a printed page across the coffee table. Kyle James Merritt and Pamela Sue Archer, married September 8th, 2021. He slid a second page. I searched every Ohio county for a dissolution filing. Cuyahoga, Hamilton, Franklin, Montgomery. He looked at me. There isn't one. 4 weeks after my daughter's wedding, my daughter's marriage was not legal. I sat on Danny Russo's consultation couch in Blue Ash, Ohio, and I looked at a photo of my son-in-law at a different altar with a different bride. And I understood, with the specific, terrible clarity of a man who spent 20 years in investigations, exactly what I was looking at. Kyle Merritt was still married. To someone else. I didn't know yet that Pam Archer had been trying to warn people for 7 months. I didn't know yet that she'd been at the wedding on purpose, and I didn't know yet that she'd left something for me, something she'd slipped into the venue's lost and found that night, addressed to the father of the bride, that nobody had thought to tell me about. I picked up the printed marriage record, folded it once, put it in my jacket pocket. Danny, he looked up. You did the right thing. Don't call anyone else. Don't post the gallery yet. Of course. And Danny, I stood up. Send me every photo that woman is in. I walked to my truck, sat in it for 4 minutes without starting the engine. Then I called my old work partner Lou Grady, who still had access to county record databases from his current job at a title company. Lou, it's Matthew. I need you to pull something for me. Tonight. Welcome to Dad's sweet revenge. Get comfortable, this one is worth the full ride. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. A man who has spent his career investigating fraud knows one rule above all others. The moment you tip your hand is the moment you lose. You don't move until you know everything. And you don't know everything until you've stopped assuming. I did not sleep Sunday night. I lay next to Carol in the dark and listened to her breathe, and thought about Natalie, who was, At that exact moment, asleep in the Hyde Park condo she now shared with her husband, her legal question mark of a husband. The man whose first marriage certificate was folded in my jacket pocket downstairs. Carol knew something was wrong. She didn't push. She made coffee at 6 in the morning and put a cup in front of me and sat down and waited. Talk. Not yet. Matthew. Carol. I looked at her. Give me a week. I need a week before you know this, because once you know it, you're going to want to do something about it immediately. And I can't have that yet. She stared at me for a long time. Carol Hatch is not a woman who accepts being kept out of things as a general policy. But she read something in my face that made her pick up her coffee cup and nod. Once. And say, 1 week. I drove to Lou Grady's house on Sunday morning. Lou and I worked claims together for 11 years. He's the kind of man who treats every records request like a personal puzzle he's been waiting for. I sat at his kitchen table and laid out what Danny had shown me. Lou whistled low through his teeth. Kyle Merritt. Property management guy? You know him? I've pulled title searches on 3 of his properties in the last 2 years. Never met him. Lou was already on his laptop. Pam Archer, you said. September 2021. Anderson Township, Hamilton County. Okay. Gimme 20 minutes. I drank Lou's terrible coffee and watched him work. The thing about Lou is that he's methodical in the way that drives impatient people insane and makes detail people feel safe. Every click deliberate. Every search bracketed. 22 minutes later, he leaned back in his chair. Married. Confirmed. Hamilton County Records license number, and everything. He turned the screen toward me. Dissolution filed? No, not in Hamilton, not in Cuyahoga, not in Franklin Summit or Montgomery. I ran all 5. He paused. I also ran Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia border counties because sometimes people think they can do it quietly out of state. And nothing. Kyle Merritt had married Natalie Hatch on June 14, 2025, while legally married to Pamela Sue Archer. Under Ohio law, that made Natalie's marriage void. Not voidable. Void. As in, it never legally existed. I didn't say it out loud in Lou's kitchen because saying it out loud would have made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. I need one more thing, I told Lou. Pam Archer. Current address, if you can pull it without tripping any flags. Give me until Monday. Monday morning, Lou texted me an address. Westwood neighborhood, west side of Cincinnati. 12 miles from Natalie's condo. Pam Archer had been 12 miles away from my daughter this entire time. I also remembered on Monday afternoon what Danny had mentioned at the end of our conversation. That Pam had been in the venue's Lost and Found. I called the Riverside Pavilion and asked whether they had anything logged under Father of the Bride, or just unclaimed items from the June 14th event. The event's coordinator, a young woman named Becca, put me on hold for 3 minutes. When she came back, actually yes, there's a sealed envelope. It's been here since the evening of the 14th. It just says Father of the Bride on the front in handwriting. I picked it up that afternoon. Inside was a single index card, handwritten. 7 words, and a phone number. He did this to me too. Call me. I sat in the Riverside Pavilion parking lot and read that card 4 times. She'd been at the wedding, she'd watched Kyle marry my daughter, and she'd still found the presence of mind to leave me a way in. I didn't call her Monday or Tuesday. I needed to know more before I talked to Pam Archer, because a conversation like that only happens once, and you have to be ready. I spent the rest of that week building the file. Every public record I could find on Kyle Merritt. Business filings for Merritt Group, incorporated in 2019, 2 years before his first wedding. Property listings, lease agreements, a small claims filing from 22-3 that he'd settled quietly. His social media, scrubbed. His LinkedIn, carefully curated. His Facebook profile existed but hadn't been updated since 2022. Someone had gotten careful about their digital footprint right around the time they started planning a second wedding. I also, on Wednesday the 16th, called Danny Russo and asked him to send me every candid that included Pam Archer. There were 11 photos total. In 8 of them she was partially obscured, behind other guests, angled away, clearly trying not to be seen. In 2, she was caught in the open, expression unreadable. But in the 11th, a candid shot from the moment Kyle and Natalie had their first dance. Pam Archer was standing near the edge of the dance floor, not hidden, not obscured, watching. Her hands were at her sides. Her face was, I've looked at that photo 30 times and I still can't fully name it. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. Exactly. It was the expression of a woman who had come to see something confirmed and was now living with the confirmation. I called her on Friday the 18th, from my truck parked outside a coffee shop on Madison Road. It rang twice. Hello? Her voice was cautious, prepared. Pam, my name is Matthew Hatch, Natalie's father. A breath. I wasn't sure you'd call. I almost didn't. I wanted to know more first. Yeah, that makes sense. A pause. How much do you know? Enough. I've got the Hamilton County marriage record. I've got the dissolution search. I've got 11 photographs of you at my daughter's wedding. I kept my voice even. I'd like to hear the rest from you. She was quiet for a moment. Can we meet in person? We met the following Monday at a coffee shop in Anderson Township. Neutral ground. Her suggestion, which I respected. Pam Archer is 36 years old, dark-haired, composed in the way people are composed when they've had to hold themselves together through something long and exhausting. She brought a folder. I liked her immediately, which made everything worse. She laid it out over 40 minutes. Married Kyle in September 2021. He was attentive, charming, exactly what she'd thought she wanted. 8 months in, things changed. Controlling. Financially isolating. She'd filed for divorce in early 2023, had her paperwork, her attorney, everything ready. Kyle had agreed to an uncontested dissolution to avoid court. Signed the documents. On purpose, she believed. Wrong county. Wrong form number. A technicality that left the dissolution incomplete in the record system, while looking on paper like it had been handled. I didn't find out until last year, she said quietly, when I tried to get a copy of the final decree for a refinancing application, and the county had no record of a completed dissolution. How long ago did you find out he was seeing Natalie? She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. 9 months ago. We have a mutual contact, someone from my old neighborhood who'd connected with him on LinkedIn. She mentioned it casually. Didn't know the history. And you didn't warn her. She met my eyes. I tried. I found Natalie's Instagram. I sent a message through a secondary account because I was afraid of how it would look. She didn't respond. I think it went to a filtered inbox. Her jaw tightened. I tried to find your contact information, Mr. Hatch. You're not on social media. No. So I came to the wedding. She looked down at her coffee. I know how that sounds. It sounds like a woman who ran out of other options. She looked up. Something shifted in her face. Relief, maybe. Or the particular exhaustion of being finally actually understood. I didn't tell her what I was already planning. But I will tell you, I had a meeting with Kyle Merritt to arrange, and before that meeting I needed one more piece of paper, one that would make everything else land correctly. Lou got me that paper by Friday, August 8th, a certified copy of the original marriage record, stamped with the county seal. The real one, the one that proved everything. I didn't know yet that Kyle had already started moving money out of the Merritt group accounts, and I didn't know yet that Beverly, his mother, the woman who'd hugged my daughter with a 1-second smile, had known about Pam Archer the entire time. If you've been listening for a while and want stories like this to keep coming, it really helps if you hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. So, thank you for real. The best moves don't look like moves. They look like dinner. I called Kyle on a Saturday morning, August 9th, and asked him to dinner. Just the two of us. Father-in-law, son-in-law thing. I told him I wanted to talk about Natalie's birthday coming up in September. Maybe coordinate on a surprise. He said sure, of course, absolutely. The way Kyle says everything with that smooth, frictionless agreement that I now understood was not warmth, but strategy. We met at Benson's Grill on Erie Avenue in Hyde Park. Quiet booths, good lighting, the kind of restaurant where serious conversations don't look out of place. I got there first. I ordered water. I put the leather portfolio I'd bought at Staples on the seat beside me, out of sight. Kyle came in at 7:04. Gray jacket, dark shirt, open collar. He shook my hand with both of his, a habit I'd always found slightly performative, and settled into the booth across from me with the ease of a man who had no idea what was happening. That ease, I'd spent 22 years watching people display it right before their story fell apart. We ordered, small talk moved across the table like weather. How Natalie was doing, how the condo was coming together. Something about a property deal Kyle was working in Blue Ash. He was relaxed. Charming. The version of himself he put on for fathers. I let him run. You always let them run first. When the appetizers arrived, I reached down beside me and placed the portfolio on the table between us. Not opened. Just there. Kyle glanced at it. What's that? Just some paperwork I wanted to go over with you? He smiled. Paperwork at dinner? I'll make it quick. I opened the portfolio. The first page was facing him. The Hamilton County marriage record. Certified copy. County seal. His name at the top. Pam Archer's name below it. September 8th, 2021. Kyle looked at it. He looked at it for 4 full seconds without saying anything, and in those 4 seconds I watched something happen behind his eyes. A rapid, silent calculation. The charm didn't fall off his face all at once. It sort of drained, slowly, like a color leaving. Matthew. The second page, I said, is the dissolution record search. 5 counties, Ohio plus 3 border states. Lou Grady runs title work for a living, so his search methodology is going to hold up anywhere you'd want to take it. I turned to the second page. There's no completed dissolution, Kyle. He said nothing. His jaw was doing something subtle. A small, tight movement like he was chewing on words before deciding not to say them. Third page is a certified copy of the Hamilton County record from the state level. Belt and suspenders. I turned to it, and the fourth page, I paused. Let him sit in the pause, is a sworn statement from Pam Archer, notarized last Wednesday, describing the timeline of your marriage, the dissolution she believed was filed, and the discovery that it wasn't. I slid it to the center of the table. She's not angry, Kyle. She's thorough. There's a difference. The booth was quiet. Around us, Benson's grill moved through its Saturday evening. Glasses clinked. A table laughed at something. The world outside our booth was completely normal. This is... He stopped. Started again. You don't understand the full picture. The dissolution. There was a filing error. My attorney at the time made a mistake with the paperwork. I thought it was done. I genuinely thought, Kyle. I said his name the way I used to say it in interviews when someone's story had just walked off a cliff. Calm, flat. I spent 22 years investigating insurance fraud. The specific kind where people arrange paperwork to look complete without being complete. It's a particular signature. I looked at him evenly. Your dissolution has that signature. His hands were on the table. Still. The kind of still that is the opposite of relaxed. What do you want? Quiet. Stripped of everything now. And here's the thing. Here's the thing I need you to understand about Matthew Hatch, retired claims investigator, father of 1 daughter, 57 years old and sitting in a booth at Benson's Grill on Erie Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio. I didn't want to destroy him. I wanted my daughter's life to be real. Here's what happens, I said. You retain an attorney, not the one you used before, and you file a proper dissolution of your marriage to Pam Archer. Correctly this time. Every county, every form, every signature in the right place. You have 60 days. He stared at me. When that's done, you and Natalie will have the option to quietly refile your marriage through a civil ceremony. Small, private, real. I closed the portfolio. Natalie doesn't have to know any of this happened the way it happened. That is your one gift here, Kyle. You get to protect her from the specific knowledge that she spent 2 months thinking she was married when she wasn't. And if you don't, I said pleasantly, I file a complaint with the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office, where bigamy is a 4th-degree felony. I copy the Ohio Real Estate Commission, since you're a licensed property manager. I send the full packet to your 3 largest commercial tenants on Montgomery Road, because Lou pulled your lease agreements and I know who they are. And I call a journalist I know at the Cincinnati Enquirer who covers exactly this kind of story. I picked up my water glass. I've had her card for 6 years. Never needed it before. Kyle Merritt sat across from me and said nothing for a long time. I ate my appetizer. It was good. The calamari at Benson's is consistently underrated. There's one more thing, I said. He looked up. Beverly knew. I said it simply. No accusation in my voice. Just the fact set on the table like the last piece of silverware. Pam's statement covers a conversation she had with your mother in February 2023, before the dissolution was filed. Beverly told her, and I'm quoting here, "Kyle's situation is complicated and it'll sort itself out." It didn't sort itself out. It sorted itself into my family. I looked at him steadily. Beverly doesn't come to Natalie's home anymore. That's not a negotiation point. He nodded. Once. Small. The nod of a man who has run his calculations and arrived at the only answer that doesn't end badly. 60 days, I said, starting Monday. The dissolution was completed and filed correctly on September 19th. Lou confirmed it through the county portal on a Friday afternoon and sent me a text that just said, "Done." Natalie and Kyle had a small civil ceremony on October 4th. Natalie thought it was because I'd offered to throw them a real family dinner party for their 4-month anniversary. She's always wanted something more intimate than the big wedding. She cried, "The good kind." Carol cried. I stood next to my daughter in the living room of our house in Oakview and watched her sign a marriage license that actually, legally, meant something. This time I checked the paperwork myself before anyone filed it. Kyle has been careful since August. Attentive. He looks at me differently now, the way people look at someone they've recalculated. We're not close. We were never close. But he comes to Sunday dinners and he's good to Natalie, and he knows with absolute certainty that the folder in my Staples portfolio is still in my filing cabinet in the home office on the 2nd floor of the Oakview house. I haven't told Natalie. I've thought about it every single day since August 9th, and I keep arriving at the same answer. She is happy. She is genuinely actually happy. And the thing that almost took that from her has been corrected, completely, without her having to carry the weight of it. Maybe someday I'll tell her, maybe I won't. That's a decision I'll make when I have to make it. Pam Archer called me in October. She'd seen that a dissolution had been filed and recorded. She thanked me. I told her she'd done the hard part. She'd shown up to a wedding she wasn't invited to and left a card in a lost and found on the longest night of her life. "You were braver than you know," I told her. A pause on the line. "Mr. Hatch, thank you for calling me back, Matthew." Matthew, a small, real laugh. "I'm glad she has you." "Me too, Pam. Me too." If you liked this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories.